Good evening and welcome to the Livonia City Council. The Honorable Kathy White will lead us in a pledge. Nope, we're going to do a prayer this evening. Would you all rise, please?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as 2019 draws to a close, thank you for all the goodness you have showed this year. Help those in our community to radiate positivity and empathy rather than negativity and divisiveness. Bless those who are struggling this holiday season. Extend your blessings to them and help them to know that they have a guiding light to watch over them. Please guide our decisions as council members tonight and throughout the coming year. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilwoman White. We appreciate your good words this evening. We'd like to welcome you to the 1,887th regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. This is a voting meeting. The minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting, which will be scheduled on Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember White,
Present.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Present.
Councilmember Meekin,
Here.
Vice President Jolly,
Present.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Present.
President Toy.
Here. Councilman Barr will be along shortly. And now we would like to entertain the presentation of the minutes of the 1,886th regular meeting of the City Council, which was held on Monday, December the 2nd of this year. Do I have a motion?
Madam President,
Yes, please.
I'm happy to offer a motion to approve the minutes.
Support. Oh,
Vice President Jolly has moved and supported by Councilman Kritzman. Would the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember White,
Present.
Councilmember McIntyre,
aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. Council, we're under personal announcements, tributes, and recognitions, and I'm going to call on Councilman Kritzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is a distinct privilege of mine to share a commendation from the offices of the Mayor and City Council for a longtime city employee. It's our beloved Mike Fisher from the Legal Department. What I would like to share this evening, unfortunately, Mike can't be with us, but this is a super valued member of our team, certainly on the city administration side and the law department side. Whereas Mike started with the City of Livonia in 1994 as the city attorney, assisting all departments with legal procedures, and whereas Mike is an active member of ProTech, serves as the representative of the law department for the ZBA, the city master plan, and for the Livonia, Michigan Municipal League. Mike has also lectured on the city's view on the marijuana laws, whereas Mike has served under 4 mayors, including Mayor Robert D. Bennett, Mayor Jack E. Kirksey, twice, Mayor Jack R. Engebretson, and Mayor Dennis K. Wright. Now therefore, I, Brandon Kritzman, on behalf of Mayor Dennis, as it states on the paper, County of Wayne and State of Michigan do hereby take this means to join the Livonia City Council to express our sincerest gratitude to Mike Fisher and commend him for 25 years of devotion to the city of Livonia. And Madam Chair, as I stated earlier, Mike's not able to join us this evening, but I did want to take the opportunity to share that and sincerely appreciate his time here with the city of Livonia.
Thank you very much, Councilman Kritzman. We'd also like to have some presentations we're going to do now. This is our last meeting of the year, yay. And we'll start our new meetings, as you heard, on January the 15th, with our new president coming in, Councilwoman McIntyre as well. And also our new Vice President, Scott Barr. So we'd like to welcome them to the City Council. They're certainly not newcomers, but they will do an outstanding job, I'm sure. I would like to call, yes, go right ahead.
Before we go into the
Please.
formal presentation, may I just make two quick comments?
Yes, please.
The first is to thank all the Livonia City employees who participated in Jean's Day and vouchers for the Senior Alliance Holiday Meals on Wheels program. That through the generosity, $400 was raised, and that will provide a lot of meals for a lot of our local seniors. And for many of them, that is the only way that they will have the opportunity to enjoy a hot meal on the holiday. And sometimes the volunteer who comes may be the only friendly face that they'll see on holiday. So thank you very much to our city family. And the second thing is I'd like to wish my oldest son, Raymond David McIntyre Culleton, the first, a very happy 22nd birthday, which will be celebrated right before we come back on January 5th. So thank you.
Congratulations, great. Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman White.
Thank you, President Toy.
Certainly.
Well, I have the honor of presenting a plaque from the City Council to Councilmember Brian Meakin. He has been a longtime public servant, starting out with the Traffic Commission in 1998. He also served on the Zoning Board of Appeals, including a few years as chairperson. He served as council vice president for 2 different terms between 2004 and 5, as well as 2014 and 15. And he has been on the council since 2004. So we're going to miss his expertise. And I can tell you, sitting up here as a colleague of his, he has been wonderful to work for, or not for, but with. Oh, Brian, I'm giving you a new title. And when I first came on the council, even though I had a lot of city experience, I didn't have a lot of experience as an elected official. And Brian was very kind to me in showing me the ropes and sharing some of the tips that he had learned along the way. So, Brian, we're going to miss you, and I'd like to present this plaque in appreciation of your dedicated service.
Too close to you. That's okay.
Yeah.
I've been ill, that's why.
As sick as you've been? You might explain that, LT.
I know. Well, the doctor said I wasn't contagious, so I've been down sick for about 2 weeks, so that's why he backed away from me real quick.
We're not taking any chances.
Yeah, right. But Councilman Meekum will have other words for you, and we'll go to Councilman Kritzman then, or did you want to make an announcement?
I would like to give this plaque to
Please do.
Councilman Kritzman, if that's
Please do.
the appointed time. So Councilman Kritzman is also leaving us, whether it be for a long time or a short time, we will see. I was going to make a lot more jokes, but Kathy took her presentation here very seriously, so I'll do the same. The
Thanks,
plaque here,
Kathy.
the plaque here is in appreciation of his service to the city of Livonia. He has served on the city council since January of 2012, and will be serving us through December. He served as the vice president from January 1st of 2016 through December 31st of 2017. He served on every committee we have here on council, chaired quite a few of them, made most of the residents and people he dealt with very happy, maybe a few sad, or maybe even a couple mad. That's okay. The bulk of the feelings are in the positive comment. He also served as the city council representative for SEMCOG, on the Hearts of Livonia, served on the City Community Tree Committee, and on the Bike Walk Livonia Advisory Committee. Brandon's really an outstanding guy, a real gentleman. He's got some experience that we will definitely miss here on council. I think the most important thing to say about Brandon is whether he is here or not, anybody who's ever served with him will always think of him when there is a site plan petition or anything architecturally speaking. We will think, what would Brandon Kritzman say? And we'll leave it at that. But it's been a real honor and a real pleasure. I would say I would miss you, but I'm sure we're going to see each other a lot going forward. So thank you, sir.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. If I may indulge in the moment just a
Please.
second? You know, as I sit here before everyone, it's, before you here on my last night of service, I'm struck by how many things I've been a part of, by how much we have changed the community in my time here. I'm grateful for those that believed in me from the outset. I'm grateful for those who climbed aboard along the way. I'm grateful for those who engaged in constructive discussion that genuinely moved our community forward. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have had in all facets of this role. I'm grateful for the opportunity to directly influence the development of projects that have shaped our community, whether that be from materials or the actual composition of the dumpster enclosure, as has been an often recited element of our conversation up here. I'm grateful for the celebrations, both positive and in memoriam. You know, I remember the loss of Larry Niehazel and his sacrifice. You know, designing that park was an absolute privilege of my lifetime. I met great people that influenced this city before my time, during my time. I attended funerals with both equal parts of respect and awe, and hope to only live up to those standards that were set by those who come before us. I accomplished some very visible things in my time, whether it be Greenleaf Commission or other things. I'm very proud of those things, but I've also laid some groundwork on so many more that I support and I hope to come to fruition in the future. More than anything, though, I'm grateful for the support of my wife, Rebecca, who's sitting in the audience this evening. Thank you. For my daughters, my family, my friends, and for my colleagues here in council. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. It's certainly been an honor serving under your leadership. I'd like to thank the rest of my colleagues as well for the past 2 years. We have a lot to be proud of. It has been an honor to serve on the Livonia City Council for 14 years. 12 of those years, I was in a leadership position, whether it was vice president or as parliamentarian. That usually means I sit next to the president and make sure they get through the meeting okay. That's been my job, and I've certainly treasured it. It has been an experience I will never forget. Some of you may remember Ladbroke DRC, the Maikai, Livonia Mall, Wonderland Mall.
Yep.
All have come and gone from this community. And I'm happy to say I had a part in the redevelopment of these projects in Livonia. And I could go on and on and on for hours over this stuff, because this is stuff that I love doing. I had the privilege of working with some of the most incredible leaders in this community. I take a great pride in helping name and rename many of the buildings here around the city. This building we're in now, City Hall, is named after Ed McNamara. Civic Center Library is Bob and Janet Bennett. The DPW campus is named after Dan Andrew, who I served on the Zoning Board of Appeals with. Dan taught me how to read drawings and discuss planning and zoning with him. He was our first city industrial developer, and his experience was, I can't thank him enough for those times that we had with him. 16th District Court, after James R. McCann. I happened to be the city administrator in charge of the project for that building. I worked every Thursday for 2 years. And I think in the meetings that we had, I was the only one in the room who wasn't getting paid. I did this as a volunteer, but it was one of the best experiences I ever had. We brought the building in under budget and on time. And in the construction industry, that's pretty something to say. The City Council Chambers was named after Joe Taylor, who was president when I was first elected vice president of the City Council back in 2003. You know, Joe taught me how to be a council person. At the inauguration, you heard one of our new members say, you know, I helped him with that, and my colleague Kathy White. It's been an honor to help pass the wisdom of Joe Taylor down to other council members. The Livonia Rec Center is named after Jack Kirksey. Jack is not only a mentor, but a friend, and his experience that he brought to me has been invaluable. There have been other leaders that I've had great times with, Mayor Jack Engelbretson. Linda Shields, our treasurer, Susan Nash, our clerk, Jim McCann, John Pastor, Don Knapp, Terry Marecki. Many of you have heard those names, but we've all worked closely together to keep this city moving forward. As a council person, I took great pride in preparing for meetings, listening to both sides of the debate. It's very important because we realize both sides of most arguments are taxpayers, and that's critical to our community. In my time on council, we went through good times and bad. There are a few legislative items that stood out to me. Our roads millage that we passed some 15 years ago is the envy of most communities in southeastern Michigan. During that time, we tightened our belts instead of cutting services. We are one of the few communities that still picks up leaves and branches on a weekly basis. Most communities have eliminated it altogether. I'm very proud of those facts. In addition to my role on city council, I spent 15 years on the Livonia Employees Retirement System, the last 3 as its chairman. We are committed to honoring the contracts that were made in negotiations over 25 years ago. It is our commitment to those employees to make sure the funds are there for them when they're no longer with us here in the city. I am proud to say that our retirement system is one of the top performing public funds in the entire country. And on the other side of that, our VEBA plan is funded over 60%, which is unheard of in most municipalities. These are items that I took great pride in, and I'm extremely proud to be leaving that organization in such good hands. I'd like to welcome our newest members to council, Brandon and Rob. I know they'll do a great job for our community. And to my friend, our first female mayor of Livonia, Maureen Brosnan. The wheel is not broken, but I'm sure you can breathe a breath of fresh air, and I know you will provide that breath of fresh air to our city. I wish all of you the best. I may not be an elected official in this community any longer, but I will still be a major part of this community. And with that, I'm out.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman.
I just want to take a minute to thank the president of the Livonia Chamber of Commerce and our Planning and Economic Development Director for an event that they put together last Friday. They filled a charter bus with a group of city officials, business leaders, developers, and others who are influential in our community to visit a number of sites in our city and to consider the economic development implications of those projects. Even though I knew about a lot of them, I learned quite a bit from Mark's narrating and, and other information that we gained when we visited the sites, which ranged from the Civic Center campus to the police shooting range to the Amazon and R&D developments, Heritage Square residential project, and many others, ending up at Masco headquarters for an energizing speech by our mayor-elect. So kudos to both of you for putting that together. I think those of us who participated really enjoyed it and learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was hoping some of the council people, if you have any words for Brian and Brandon, now's the time. We're going to share on those, so please go right ahead, Councilwoman McIntyre.
I'd just like to thank both of my outstanding colleagues for being mentors, leaders, bringing so much knowledge and perspective to so many different projects, and in so many ways. I could spend the whole night, which I know no one wants me to, going on with specific times that they that they came in with a particular suggestion or idea on a project, but most of all, just for being great friends. And like any job, you don't get to pick who you work with, and you don't know when you go into a job how you're going to feel about the people you work with. I had a pretty good idea, but when you get to come to work and the people that you work with are all your friends because of the way they work, their integrity, their hard work, their knowledge, and just the kind of people they are, you're really very fortunate. So you two are going to be missed tremendously. We know we're getting 2 great new council members but you're going to be missed. So thank you for everything you've done for your council colleagues and for our city. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilwoman White.
I've mentioned a few things about Brian, but I didn't get a chance to mention anything about Brandon, and a lot of what I said about Brian goes for Brandon as well. His experience has been invaluable. All of us together work well because we all respect each other's opinions, and I've always respected both Brian and Brandon for the view that they presented to me and to the public on various items that have come before the council. They are also good friends of mine, and again, I will miss them both. So
Thank you
hope
very
you go
much.
on to bigger and better things.
Thank you so much. Yes, please, go ahead.
So, all of you who came here tonight probably weren't expecting this love fest, but it's something we have to do. I got an opportunity as well to speak about my friend Brandon here. But Brian, I'll just say, like, it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot, and you will always be, to me, the mentor that you spoke about Joe Taylor being. And I appreciate that, and you know, it's not lost on me that as I sit up here, the two of you are directly responsible for me being up here and appointing me. And I will always think about that and will always be thankful as well. And I wish you the best.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I'd like to add to the recognition of both of you. Brian Meakin has just been an outstanding, understanding council member. I don't know if that always comes across, but it's certainly just a phone call away. And I have great respect for Councilman Meakin and all he's done for this city. So many of you don't see the hours that are put in by these council people. It's amazing, like he said with the court building, unbelievable. And the things you learn, it's just an education. You don't really need to go back to college for a review because it's right here in so many ways. And so I want to thank Councilman Meakin from the bottom of my heart for everything he's done, and we hope to see him around here. Also, Councilman Kritzman, he's gained a lot of hair since I first met him. He was just a
It's a
young,
lot grayer than it used to be.
he's just a young guy coming and meeting us and talking to us about all his dreams and aspirations, and he certainly fulfilled them. Knee Hazel Park is just a knockout and outstanding, and I mean, we learned so much from him on his architectural ability and just his overall intelligence as well. He just is such an additive for this city and to this council. This has been one of the best councils I've served on in many, many years. And all of the people you see up here, you know, Scott's not here, but he'll be here shortly, have done an outstanding job for all of you. And just a little thing I wrote down that I want you to take with you. Remember that when you leave this earth, you can take with you nothing that you have received. Fading symbols of honor, trappings of power, but you only are what you were given. A full heart enriched by honest service, love, sacrifice, and courage. Thank you for doing all you've done. Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, for those words. And as the Vice President here, I can attest that in the last 2 years, and probably for the length of my entire life, Laura Toy has embodied those words and taken them seriously. I have a plaque here that designates and memorializes the names of everyone who served as the president of the Livonia City Council. We've recently added Laura Toy's name to this for the 4th time, and she is the only person in the 4-timers club. I promise that if she makes the 5th time, we'll make a nice blazer with a 5 on it, like they do for SNL when you host 5 times.
Now I'm embarrassed.
But timing could not have been more perfect for this, as December 22nd is Laura's birthday. We want
Yes.
to wish her a happy birthday, and
Thank
we got her this plaque with her
Thank
name
you.
on it.
Very nice,
We're going to
thanks.
keep here at City Hall. But it's been a real pleasure and an honor, and I mean, I think I've told you this, and I've tried to do this over the last 2 years, but I really am appreciative of learning from you, your service. There's many, many things that your experience has shined a light upon that I would not have thought about.
Thank
And I can only hope that I walk away from serving under you as vice president, some of that knowledge and some of that ability to see things clearly. And I hope I'm always able to call upon you for your perspective. And I just really can't say enough about how great you have been to this community and me personally and all of us. So
Thank
thank
you.
you very much and happy
Thank you.
birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It is indeed an honor. Thank you, Vice President Jolly. He's been just super to work with and just highly intelligent and gets it. And so we're very fortunate in this community to have such talented people and all of you to be here tonight. Thank you. Okay, we're going to introduce our department heads. Unless there's any other comments anyone would like to make before I leave that. Councilman Barr, if you'd show Councilman Barr has arrived. So to my right is Paul Bernier. He's our city attorney. Paul. Susan Nash, who is our city clerk. And to my left is David Lair, who's in for Todd Zelinczyk, who is out of town at the moment, right, Dave? He's not under the desk there, is he? No. Okay, and then we have Mark Terabina, our city planner, and also Judy Preby, who puts up with the seven of us. So thank you very much, Judy, for this year and all the years of service you've done. You've done a miraculous job, and all of you as well, and all the department heads out in the audience. Our mayor, Dennis Wright, is here this evening as well. Thank you, Mayor, for being here as well. And so to go on with our business of the evening as well is our public hearing that I will announce that my good friend Kathleen will get to chair. And that is a public hearing that will be held on Wednesday, January 8th of 2020 at 7 p.m. in the auditorium of Livonia City Hall. Bone, Fasson, and Bone LLP, attorneys at law on behalf of the Livonia Hotel Group, LLC, requesting to establish a commercial rehab district for the property located at 19265 Victor Parkway, Livonia, Michigan, 48152, to facilitate redevelopment of this property. So that will be again on January 8th, and we welcome to hear that public hearing. We do have new data tonight, everyone, of items 3, 16, 18, and 19. And in the future, please, at 4 o'clock on Fridays, your data is supposed to be in. Anything new for the council? It's tough to read these things at the last minute. So please, if those of you from the outside and not from the inside, if you take them to the council office on the second floor, or a very capable clerk, she would get them up to the council office if you don't feel like walking upstairs. But please, if you have any new data, that way the council has time to read it and study it. We appreciate it. Thank you. We want to also wish, you know, December is a very, very special month for so many of us, not only with Christmas, but with birthdays. And hopefully you don't wrap anybody in December. I'll give you a little hint. Right, Mayor? You don't wrap it in Christmas paper. You wrap it in birthday paper. You don't give people, you know, cakes with poinsettias on it. You know, you want to do birthday. So Brian Meekin had a birthday, guess when? December 11th. And so that makes him older than me. So thank you, Brian. And also, our dear Mayor, Dennis Wright, had a birthday on December the 13th, and that does make him a lot older than me. So I'm really pleased to announce both those birthdays. Mayor, thank you so much. And the bad news is we didn't get you anything right now, but there'll be a lot of time, sir, till the end of the year. Okay, we're going to move into audience communication. Pardon me, pardon my voice. Anyone that is here, that anything that's not on the green agenda, if you'd like to address council, we need your name and address for the record, please, and approach the podium to my right or to my left. Hi, thanks for waiting.
Hi, you're welcome. My name is Gina. I live at 10945 Stark Road in Livonia.
Yes.
I was just curious if it was possible to move an agenda item up.
That's up to the council. Council, which agenda?
That's why I'm
item?
asking.
Yeah, which agenda item are you
The one in
referring to?
regards to wireless telecommunication facilities and 5G. I know there's a lot of us here that want to speak that would appreciate it if we could maybe talk
Is it
sooner.
new information, do you know? Because this is a voting meeting, so we ask for any new information. you
Yes,
have.
it is.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please, go right ahead.
we have a relatively lengthy consent agenda this evening. I imagine we'll get through the agenda in a relatively timely manner. If there is new information for us to review on item 19, I'm certain that we'll make the time to do that. I imagine it won't be. Honestly, now that you got through our end of the year, congratulations, sorry to see you guys go, sort of thing. We'll make our way through the agenda relatively quickly. I recommend that we keep the agenda in the same order that we currently have it.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, all right, thank
All
you.
right, you know what? And if you go to college or anything, you can get extra credit for being here tonight if you get a signature.
Oh, I'm really old for college.
You can always go back.
Not as old as
Always go
Brian.
back. Okay, anybody else from audience communication? Hearing and seeing none, then we will move on to reports from the mayor and other city officials, communication from the Department of Finance dated November 29th, financial statements for the city of Livonia as of October 31st of this year. Madam Clerk, if we could get that received and filed, please. Okay, item 11 then, or excuse me, item 1 through 12 is listed on the consent agenda. This does not mean that they were any less important than any of the other items on the agenda, but rather that they have been determined to be not controversial in nature. Do I have a motion?
Madam President?
Please go
I make
right
a
ahead.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice President Jolly, supported by Councilman Fritzman. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote on that?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. Council, we're under unfinished business. This was meetings of the committee. We had a capital outlay and infrastructure meeting on October 30th, and the Honorable, and also on November 13th, the Honorable Kathy White. I will let the chairwoman give her report.
Well, we had an interesting meeting discussing possible methods of funding the new DPW building. As a result of the discussion at that meeting, the committee recommended several proposed resolutions to be reported out and to be before you at this meeting. Basically, the difference in the resolutions and the difference in the methods of funding have to do with whether or not we would be issuing debt for a lot of the construction costs, or whether we would use a combination of that method and monies from the general fund and from the water and sewer fund, and any combination thereof, basically. So at this point, Madam Chair, I would like to offer two resolutions.
ahead.
One would be, the first one would be to authorize payment to Maria Building Company for their services, and to approve a contract amendment as recommended by the administration.
Do I have support on that, please?
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman McIntyre. Was there discussion? Hearing and seeing no discussion. Anyone from the audience? Hearing and seeing no discussion from the audience, would the clerk please call for the vote on that?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes.
Madam Chair, I'd
Please go
also
ahead.
like to offer option A as prepared, which would provide that the project cost would be, we would rely on the monies from the water, the unexpended fund balance in the water and sewer fund, and also from the general fund, and we would not be issuing debt for the project.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman White, supported by Councilman Barr. Was there discussion?
Madam President?
Yes, please, Vice President Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to state on the record here that this new DPW building is absolutely necessary, and it's something that I wholeheartedly agree with being built. I support it being built, although I will not be supporting option A as offered in regards to its financing. It was not too long ago that we as a community saw an economic downturn that affected the tax rates, the tax revenue that was brought in, and we had to make a lot of cuts to the city and services. And we find ourselves in a situation now where it's relatively easy and it's relatively cheap to be borrowing money. So much so that it really, in my opinion, would be the smart thing to do in regards to this. When we take out money from the fund balance, we are putting at risk, maybe not, but possibly, we are putting at risk our bond rating with the credit rating agencies. And that could, in the future, cost us more money to borrow additional money. So it's kind of a catch-22 here. I would be happy to support financing part of the project and paying for part of the project out of the fund balances. I think that's the more appropriate route to go here. I think that would give us more leeway as a city and more flexibility for the unknown circumstances that we face ahead. At this time, like I said, I absolutely support the DPW building. A lot of hard work has gone into that, particularly by our DPW staff. These financing options were put together by our finance director, Mike Slater. He's done a great job as well. I can't support what is being offered here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Any other comments? Yes, Councilman Kritzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to my colleague, Mr. Jolly, I've supported the project from the start. I supported purchasing the property. I supported moving forward with the design of the project. I was the council's liaison along with Councilwoman Kathy White to the design committee, working closely with the contractor and the DPW and the entire project team to move the project forward. I absolutely support the project, and we should do this. We should be absolutely doing this project. The difference of opinion here, and I think that's what Mr. Jolly was commenting on, is that it's all a matter of how do we pay for this? And we all approach it in a little different sort of manner. Many of us take the approach of how do we compare this to our own dining room table. That's an example that's been paraded up here many times, myself included. I know my personal situation. I would value a fair bit of flexibility. If we are finding ourselves in a position to bond the project with relatively low cost and leave ourselves the out and the flexibility and the certainty of having that cash on hand from a business standpoint, from a home finance standpoint, that's certainly something that I appreciate. Aside from my own dining room table discussions, I look at it from a business standpoint. And I know that with the downturn coming, and we've all heard about it, talked about it, we can't quantify the impact that that's going to have on us as a community. But I certainly value a fair bit of flexibility. So while I support the project, I am not going to be supporting the current funding mechanism that's been recommended in the resolution at hand.
Thank you very much. Councilman Barr.
First of all, I want to clarify some misspeaking, I think, even in the resolution. There is debt involved in this. It's not avoiding any debt. It's just a lower portion of debt. So there is, as has been mentioned, there was a desire to share it between fund balance and bonding. There is a balance between fund balance and bonding on here. When we look at fund balance versus debt, so just to level set the community here a little bit, this building essentially has been calculated to be 75%, and there's been pretty extensive analysis on this. We've been talking about this for years, frankly. 75% of this building is for water and sewer. The other 25% is for general use. So the expenses have been divvied out accordingly. And so what we're looking at here is we've got two funds. We've got the general fund and we've got the water and sewer fund. Both of those funds, we have target minimums that we keep on hand as cash reserves for an emergency. In the case of the general fund, the recommended amount there is 16.7% of expenditures. We are routinely at or above that. In fact, right now, we're almost 6% above that. We are in an extremely healthy situation in the general fund. On the water and sewer side, the minimum cash balance that we try to keep based on the formula that calculates that right now is at about 14 million. We currently have 18.3 million in that fund, so we're in a pretty healthy shape there. So we have money to work with. When we look at fund balance versus debt, I understand the appeal of cheap money. The interest rate that we have available to us is in the range of 2.7%. That is cheap money. And there's a compelling case to be made for taking advantage of that. But I'm going to offer a personal example. For those that don't know, in 2007, I left my career at Chrysler to go in the entrepreneurial world, and I was there for 4.5 years working out of my house. During that time, even though the mathematics would have told me that it was better for me long-term to be investing my money in the stock market, regardless of what was happening in that time, than to pay off my house, because I was in an entrepreneurial situation and I did not know where my income was going to be coming year to year, My number one goal at that time was, while I had the ability to, was to get my household expenses as low as possible, precisely so that I would have the flexibility I needed if that income dropped. And so I was throwing everything at the kitchen sink, to use the dining room table example, at paying off my house at the expense of investing for retirement. Now, hindsight, mathematically, that was a dumb decision based on what's happened, okay? But because of my scenario and because of what was important to me at the time, that was my priority, was getting my household expenses as low as possible. That's the scenario we're in as a city. Our revenue goes up and down. We all saw 10 years ago what happened. We're in a period of time right now where the revenue is really, really high, and it gives us the opportunity to do a lot of this without debt that keeps that monthly expense low, so that when inevitably the economy cycles back, we have more flexibility. We don't have fixed costs on the books that we have to be paying. Bonds are a great option if you don't have the money. We do. With this proposal with option A, even after doing this, we're still going to be $3 million above where we need to be in the general fund for the minimum, and we're still going to be above our minimum in the water sewer fund. So we still have the cash reserves we need for an emergency, and we're avoiding that finance cost. The counter argument in favor of debt, and it's as Councilman Kritzman alluded to, there's a business argument for it. And many times in a business sense, you look at this and you say it's good debt. It's an opportunity for us to get cheap money. But that makes sense if you're going to be using the money that you're financing in order to generate more revenue. That's not what this is. The Water and Sewer Department is not a revenue-generating operation. It's an operation where we have costs to cover, and then we pass those costs to you in water rates. We're not looking to make money off of it, and you can remember that when we talk about water rates next year. So the very reason why you would want to take advantage of cheap money in a business sense does not apply here. So for all those reasons, there's others I could go into, but there's just one other thing I want to mention. When we're talking about water rates, we're basically talking about a usage tax. Water rates are a tax. It's a unique tax because it's something that we have the ability here on council without going to the voters to raise. But we need to be very disciplined with that to make sure we're only spending what we need to so that we can keep those rates as low as possible. And I'm very proud that this city year in and year out has the lowest water rates and the lowest water rate increases of any of our surrounding communities. And I hope and I anticipate that it will stay that way. The actions that we take tonight are what drive a lot of that. So for this and other reasons, I think it's wise for us to be using the funds we have available that keeps us still above that minimum and only bonding for what we need to, which in this case is $2.6 million instead of the full 9.8.
Thank you, Councilman Barr. I think, though, that they set the rates downtown. We don't set the rates. I mean, they pass through us,
Madam
correct?
President?
Yes.
You're right, the base rates are
Yeah.
passed through to us, but there's a
Right.
portion of it, including what we're handling here tonight, which are our expenses, which get
Sure.
covered in the rates.
Okay.
And so this absolutely affects the water rates. It's important that we keep it as low as we can.
Absolutely. If I may ask a question to Chairwoman White, what would be, we have 3 resolutions here. If we don't do A and we have B and C, what would the cost be to the resident? Do we recall that from the meeting? Because there would be additional fee there, right?
There would, and I know we have those numbers, I just don't recall. off the
Okay.
top of my head what they are.
Madam Chair, if I recall correctly through revisiting this item earlier today, I believe it was a matter of $7.20 per pay period if we went out for a full bonding. If we went with the middle-of-the-road version, I think it was $3.20. I'd look for somebody in the administration to make any clarifications if that's necessary, but
Third one is 520. Mr. Slater,
All right.
would you help us with that?
560.
This is our Finance Director, Mike Slater.
that's annually, yeah.
Yeah, good evening, council. The numbers were correct, but they are annual costs, so
Almost correct.
the debt for option A would be the water rate change under option A would be $3.20. Option B, which is the bonding option, is $7.20 annually. And then the hybrid option, option C, was $5.60. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Annually.
That's annually, right?
Correct.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Kritzman, as well. Thank you. Any other discussion on this? We do have item A on the floor at the moment. Is there any other discussion from council? Anybody from the audience? Hearing and seeing no one, would the clerk then take the vote?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
No.
Councilmember Meekin,
No.
Vice President Jolly,
No.
Councilmember Kritzman,
No.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye. Motion fails. Do we have another motion? Yes, go right ahead, Councilwoman McIntyre.
I would like to offer option C, which is what we called the hybrid plan. Again, the project cost obviously doesn't change under any of the funding options. But this would use roughly 1.8 million of the fund balance from the water and sewer fund, with 4.6 million being reimbursed to the water and sewer fund from the proceeds of a bond. And I had asked the administration to explore this hybrid option.
Could I have a support
Oh,
on this?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go, Councilman Kritzman has supported.
Sorry, thank you.
That's all right.
Thank
Go
you.
right ahead.
I had asked the administration for a hybrid option. While I share many of Mr. Barr's opinions about the appropriateness of using the money that we've accrued in the water and sewer fund, I'm not comfortable taking it down to the level we would if we used most of it for, well, not most of it, but if we covered most of the cost of this building from that. And to me, the hybrid option strikes the right balance between appropriately using some of the money that we've put aside in the water and sewer fund, but at the same time, taking advantage of the low money rates and leaving us a higher balance in the water and sewer fund. We know that our aging infrastructure is always susceptible to major failures, which are not inexpensive to fix. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the council? Councilman Barr.
I have a question that's maybe it's appropriate if Mr. Slater can come to the podium. Mike, can you explain, and as Councilwoman McIntyre explained about this being kind of a hybrid between the two, how did we come up with where on the spectrum to get these numbers? I mean, I understand that the bonding amount is in between the two extremes that we had considered, but what was the rationale for coming up with that number?
For the option C amounts,
Yeah.
that was provided at the request of the city council. At the committee meeting, I believe it was Councilmember McIntyre suggested this as one of the options we should consider. So that's what we provided back to council in terms of the costs.
Okay. I just think so the other two, I totally understood the rationale. And I guess I'm not so much talking to you here, Mike. You've answered my question. Thank you. I'll just speak for the record. The other two were really a choice between two philosophies. What I explained earlier, or are we just going to bond the entire thing? I'm not clear as to what the rationale was in option C, as to coming up with the amounts. I understand it's in the middle, but to me, it kind of seems like let's just pick a point in the middle. And so I do like it better than bonding the entire thing, that's for sure. Having said that, I want to just, while we're talking about this, I want to make one more point because I think it's important for the community to understand this. As we look at general fund revenue in this city, and that's what we're concerned about here, is how much space are we leaving ourselves with general fund revenue? And as I've already explained, even if we were to do what I had suggested earlier, we would still be way above what the minimum is that we typically require for ourselves, which is already beyond what many municipalities can do. So we're in good shape. I remember what I was going to say. I drew a blank there for a second. When you look at our budget, because the economy has been doing well, for the last 7, 8, 9 years have seen the revenue climbing. And certainly it had dropped a lot in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. But just to give you some perspective, in 2015, so 4 years ago, this city brought in more general fund revenue than in our entire history. Okay, that's not because tax rates have gone up. Tax rates have been the same. That's because the economy is doing well and your property values are going up. And therefore your tax bills are going up. So this city in 2015, I'm not even talking about where we are now. At 15, we had the highest amount of general fund revenue than we've ever had. In 2019, which is our fiscal year that just ended, Mike can tell me if I'm wildly wrong on this, but we're in the neighborhood of $7 million over that. over what was the record year in 2015. We have plenty of room to work with if we want to use general fund dollars on this, plenty. Now, that money is not being wasted. It's going to a lot of very worthwhile capital projects, many of which were put on hold during those tough years. I'm not saying all of that should be going to this. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking that we're in a tight spot and we need to be saving our pennies. We need to be responsible with this stuff all the time. But if we are to find a good use for this to avoid going into debt versus borrowing more money so that we can say that we're credible for borrowing more money, we have a lot of room to work with. I just want the community to be aware of that. Thanks.
Sure. Councilman Kritzman and then Council Vice President Jolly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of points. I mean, one, we can't simply concentrate on the revenue side of the ledger. There's two sides of any accounting ledger. There's revenue and there's expenses. While revenue has certainly gone up and we're enjoying a period of prosperity related to increased property values, all of this is relative based on how low things went. Let's not forget that our costs never went down. In fact, all they've done is continually increase year after year after year after year. So while we can cite certain aspects of prosperity based on pulling a statistic out of 2015 and say that we have $7 million more revenue now than we had then, that doesn't mean anything without seeing the cost version of that, because you have a positive and you have a negative. So let's not forget that aspect. Offering some bit of clarification to the approach to option C that's been offered up. As Mr. Slater indicated, this was by the request of council. We've heard commentary this evening. I mean, the whole project is $9.8 million. We got 25% of it is non-water and sewer. That's engineering, it's park services, it's you know, all the other kind of components that fall under DPW. 75% of it is that water and sewer. And while I agree that we shouldn't be solely relying on bonding for that, what option C does is it sets a reasonable mark that says we're not going to go out and fully bond for the entirety of the 75% responsibility of water and sewer. What it says is we're going to take, doing some quick math here in my head, it's 2.3 million approximately out of that fund balance. So we are expending in option C $2.3 million of that extra fund balance and relying on 4.6 of it to be serviced by debt. So in my mind, this is a great compromise between the two options that were presented previously. And while we are experiencing some great economic gains at the moment, that doesn't come without the expense. And I think option C allows us an opportunity to move forward with a great deal of flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kritzman. Vice President Jolly.
I'll try to keep this short. As we're looking at these numbers and these financing situations, we have costs, we have revenue, we have things that we have in the works, like this DPW building. We all, I'm going to guess, most of us anyways in this room, we live in the city of Livonia. We love our city, we appreciate what it is, but I think we all want it to be a little bit more as well. So when I speak about flexibility, that's flexibility for our parks, it's flexibility for our police department, our fire department in regards to public safety and the ability to attract and retain public safety officials. It's also, you know, the possibility and the opportunity to actually move on the master plan, to make this a nicer community, to make it more desirable for all of us to live in, to make it more livable. Flexibility gives us those possibilities in a way that not having the flexibility does not. And those are all part of a larger community conversation here that we're gonna have, and we will have anytime we spend community dollars or we go out to bond money. But I think flexibility is the key. We want to be flexible in regards to what we can do today, what we can do tomorrow, and what kind of community we can make this to be, really. I know I love it here, but I know we can make it even better, and I'd like the flexibility to do so. Thank you.
Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, please, go
I
ahead.
know I'm dominating the microphone a little bit, I'm sorry, but I do need to respond to one thing, just because it was brought up. The police and fire issue is going to be something we're going to be dealing with soon. It's completely irrelevant to this discussion. What we're talking about here is bonding for water and sewer funds. Those cannot be used for police and fire. That's another funding discussion that we're all going to have soon, but it's irrelevant to this. And I just wanted to say, after everything I've said, it's clear where I stand. I will be voting for this option because I like it better than what our third option is. So you all know what my first option was, but just so you're not confused, when I say aye on this one, you'll understand why. Thanks.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, Councilwoman White.
Madam Chair, I also have a concern about the interest payments that will be generated by issuing debt here. However, I can support this as an alternative, although the difference in the amount of debt from option A, it would have been $2,600,000, and this one is $4,600,000. So there are going to be significant costs to the city of Livonia by choosing this method, but as a compromise here, I also share Councilmember Barr's concern that the idea of bonding in the amount of $8,300,000, which would be the other alternative here that, has not been placed on the table, I could not support that at all. So I will be supporting this resolution for option C. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman McIntyre.
And I just want to address one thing, since I was the one that had asked for this. And, well, finding the point in the middle was somewhat arbitrary. It was not a compromise to me as much as it was what made sense. It wasn't just let's split the difference and settle in the middle. I like the approach, and we could have set it anywhere, $1 million here, $1 million there. But I really did like the approach of using some of the fund balance, which I think appropriately is used for long-term big projects, but at the same time making sure that we had a very, very healthy fund balance. And if you look at the cost of repairs and major repairs to infrastructure, they're not going down. And while my colleague, Mr. Barr, is very correct that our revenues have been going up, our costs, even with belt tightening, even with not adding employees, even with being responsible, our costs also go up. So that was my rationale for offering C, and why I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And probably the most important part of the whole thing is we get a building up and running, because the deplorable conditions in that facility really need to be corrected. And I believe the administration had recommended the one that came out of committee by the committee chairwoman. So with that said, is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this before we go for the vote? Hearing and seeing no one, then, Madam Clerk, if there's no other council persons addressing this, then would you please take the vote?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. This item will remain in the committee. So in 2020, we'll get to deal with it again, I'm sure. Okay, we're under unfinished business, and this is a proposed amendment, and I'm going to let Councilman Meekin give us the second reading.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll offer second reading.
Okay. Thank you. You've heard second reading. Was there discussion? No discussion. Anyone from the audience? Hearing and seeing no one rushing up from the audience, would the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. The ordinance will become effective upon publication in the newspaper. Item 15, excuse me, we just did item 15, didn't we?
That was 14.
Sorry, it was 14. I'll tell you, when you get another year older, you lose track of counting. Okay, waiver petition then is on the Planning Commission, and this is by Tizio Architects on behalf of Citizens Bank, construct and operate a freestanding dry-up ATM kiosk.
Madam President,
Yes, go right
I
ahead.
move the approval of the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Or moved by Councilman Meekin, supported by Councilman Kritzman. Was there discussion from the council? Hearing and seeing none. Anyone from the audience? Hearing and seeing? No discussion from the audience. Go right ahead, Madam Clerk, if you take the vote.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr, President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. Council, we're on item 16, determination of the local officers' compensation commission. This is brought to us from the city clerk for salaries of elected officials for calendar years 2020 to 21 in accordance with section 2.48.030 of chapter 2.48 of the Livonia Code of Ordinances.
Madam Chair?
Councilwoman White.
I'd like to propose that the council by resolution reject the proposal to change the salary of the city council. I think it should be left where it is today. Thank you.
Was there support? Supported by Councilman Barr. Was there discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, please, go right ahead.
through the chair of the law department, can we break these out?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I heard that, oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead, Councilman.
Just commenting, I know we've broken these out in the past. I believe that has happened on multiple occasions. But, you know, the local officers compensation committee, and I'm saying this as someone who's an outgoing council person. This vote does not impact my income, my revenue as a family, my dining room table discussion. I believe the recommendations of the local officers compensation commission at this point should be recognized, respected, and approved as they are stated in the agenda.
In the agenda, okay.
Madam President,
Yes.
just
Go right ahead.
explain my support for this. I don't disagree with Councilman Kritzman. I respect the work that our local officers compensation commission does. They look at this very circumspectly. This is not, these types of things aren't done lightly. They look at comparables. I think for the mayor, the treasurer, and the clerk, I don't have an issue with it. On the council side, we're not underpaid by any means. I think what we make is fair. I know the hours that I put into this job. When you figure it out relative to what we're paid, I think our salary is appropriate. While the increase that had been suggested by the commission for this council is not huge and would not be a big deal from a budget standpoint, I don't necessarily think, I don't think it's necessary. And but I also want to make this point very clearly. We've done, if this were to go through as been proposed, this would be the second time in a row we've done this. This should not be interpreted as some kind of tradition or some types of precedent. I mean, there are times that this is appropriate, just for a number of reasons. I think it's fine leaving the council where it is. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we have someone from the Compensation Commission. Mr. Long? Yeah, thank you for approaching. Could you state your name and address for the record, sir?
Glenn Long, I guess the address of the commission would be 33,000 Civic Center Drive.
Your
Livonia.
address, sir.
My address would be 16186 Edgewood Drive.
Great. Livonia, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Were there questions for Mr. Long? I have a real quick question, Mr. Long. How did you derive these salaries? Is it, because part of the thing is I'm digging a little deeper. As I look at some of the referendums that are being put forward throughout our state, particularly when it faces the clerk's department, and with the legislature, many times it faces our treasurer, and different venues they have to take. And then the comparables. Was there a deep study done on these as well? I know that the mayor's salary as well, and the council, there's been other comments about those. The mayor's salary seems to be low compared to other areas. And I'm gonna pass a gavel to Councilman Jolly. And so I was wondering the logic and/or the considerations you made and your commission made as you approached this. I know that your commission is appointed by a mayor, is that correct?
Yes, the members are appointed by mayors. Some of them go back as far as Mayor Engebretson. So it's been appointed by
Sure.
by 3 different mayors and later approved by city council. We review comparable data from surrounding communities. We focus on communities of similar size, Dearborn, Canton, Warren. We're looking at making sure that these positions are funded competitively. We are taking into account the adjustments that may have been made to the city's rank and file workers. We take a lot of these circumstances into account. There's great debate at the table over what's appropriate. Some of the commission members actually felt that the positions of mayor, clerk, and treasurer deserved a larger raise in order to stay competitive. We solicited the opinions of the current mayor and also the mayor-elect as well. So we did a lot of background study, a lot of work on this. I would also add my editorial comment that while I applaud the civic generosity of the council, I do think that in order to keep things moving along and keeping up with inflation, that the council should consider accepting the recommendation of the commission on themselves this time as well, especially after having turned it down the last time. We have, as you mentioned earlier in this meeting, as a city, we're in good times right now, but we may not always be there, and I think it's important to make sure that we're keeping up and that we're attracting the best and brightest to these positions. Obviously, it's not a full-time job at council, but to the extent that that could make a difference, I think we have to make sure that we're keeping up with surrounding communities.
Appreciate your comments and appreciate you being here. Some would say this is the first time we've ever had one of you being here, but I think it was important that you give us some insights into what and how you make your determinations, and we appreciate your time and service, sir.
Thank you. We've actually, I've been the chair, I think, for 4 or 6 years now. I actually have been at the previous meetings. It just wasn't requested to speak, but happy to do so and happy
Certainly.
to offer any other
Agreed.
insights on
Great.
where we came up with these.
Well, you were well hidden out there, sir. Okay, any other oh, go ahead, you got the gavel.
Excuse
Yes.
me, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Long, I appreciate that. Is there any other comment from the council? There appears to be none. Can we go to audience communication? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to item 16?
Here comes somebody.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Suzanne Yarbrough, 33428 Richland Street, Livonia. I researched the mayor's salary, $122,000 or something. The average mayor gets $50,000 a year. A governor makes $100,000. The average governor pay is $100,000 a year. Governor, sorry, I'm nervous. Gretchen Whitmer makes $159,000 a year. So when I called Livonia about the mayor's pay, they said, well, it's based on how many people are in Livonia. Well, there's 10 million people in Michigan. I just think that's a very high salary that you're overpaying the mayor. Try to pay the average pay, thank you. It's not based on what other cities are making. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comment, ma'am. I will go to President Toy, who has a comment, and then President-elect Kathleen McIntyre.
If I may, just to clarify just a couple things. In some comparisons that we have in our packet tonight, the city of Dearborn, just for an example, pays $154,103 to their mayor. So that is higher than Livonia's mayor, as well as Warren, which is a comparable city size-wise, in regards to population, that is, as well, at $125,642. And those are 2019 figures, okay? Why it seems exorbitant to some people, or a little bit whatever, I can only tell you how a mayor is 24/7. And it doesn't only come down to mayor, it becomes the heart of a person that wants to even be a mayor, because it's very time-consuming. And so take those into consideration as you look at cities that are comparable as well to Livonia. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Chair.
President. Councilwoman McIntyre.
One other important thing to consider when you look at average mayor salaries, most of the mayors in Michigan, especially of communities the same size as ours, are not the chief administrative office of the city.
Right.
We have what's called a strong mayor form of government. It has nothing to do with the individual who holds the office. It means that we don't have a city manager. Most communities of our size have a mayor and a city manager. So the $50,000 in many cases reflects a part-time mayor who does not have administrative responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to call on Councilman Barr.
Thank you, Vice President Jolly. I'll tack on, in addition to what Kathleen said, I think we need to be looking at the fact that we're talking about regardless of who's in the position, we're talking about the chief executive officer of a very large organization. If you want to attract people from the private sector to come into these kind of jobs, to be quite honest with you, I think our mayor is still underpaid, to be perfectly honest. So I don't have an issue with that at all. The council thing for me is a little bit different because it's not a full-time job. It's not replacing any of our full-time incomes. And to my knowledge, nobody that runs for council takes the salary into account in deciding to run. So while I think it's appropriate, and there's times that it will be appropriate to increase it, that's my rationale there. But I want to make it abundantly clear too, if this does not pass and this ends up going differently and we end up raising the council salaries, nobody should hold any council people in contempt for that. This has been recommended by commission. It's got a lot of data to back it up. There's nothing I'm gonna get that word wrong. There's nothing excessive about what's being recommended here. Depending on how this goes, I want to make that clear. Thanks.
Councilwoman McIntyre.
And just to further clarify a fact, the governor's salary is about $160,000 a year with an additional $54,000 in expenses. So that's
In a
for
house.
anything she wants to spend it on. Plus, she has allowance for staff, plus she receives housing. And so, saying that the governor makes only a little bit more than our mayor is not correct. And if the council salaries are not passed, I would like every voter to remember, when you talk about city council, and sometimes we get phone calls complaining about what we do and how we make too much money, this would be the fourth year, we'd be finishing up the fourth year where council has not taken any increase in salary. So, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other comments from the council, I will go to the gentleman standing at the podium. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Hi, my name is Bill Schmidt, live at 29688 McIntyre. Seems as if the fix is in, but I would like to voice my opposition to the pay increases that are being voted on this evening. I think particularly it's the timing which I find most disconcerting. I'm sure that everyone here is working under a lot of duress. You guys are working really hard. I'm sure the Compensation Commission worked very hard and did their homework. But I find it unusual to think that this topic only came to light, came to study post-election. You were all facing elections in November, just a little more than a month ago. And I'm sure these questions were in front of you, yet wasn't raised. If this just came to light post-election, seems rather convenient. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, sir. We'll go to Councilman Kritzman.
Just through the chair to Mr. Schmidt, I mean, understand that these meetings of the local officers compensation committee are scheduled well in advance. In fact, they're outlined by charter that the city is run by. Your comments, sir, that the fix is in and that everybody up here is going to benefit from it. How do you?
No, I'm
How
saying
do I
that
benefit from this?
I am saying that the
I'm
vote
outgoing.
has seemingly the vote has been determined.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Councilman Kritzman has the floor. I'd respect the,
And I engaged Mr. Schmidt, so I think that's fine. This is not something that snuck up on us, to your point. It didn't sneak up on us. We anticipated it. We don't know the outcomes of what that commission is going to recommend to us until those recommendations are made. But we certainly didn't sit here in the dark thinking that they weren't meeting. We understood that they would be meeting. And certainly, anytime you get a compensation commission looking at the region, looking at comparable communities, looking at comparable roles, it's not altogether surprising that they're going to recommend an increase. But that has not always been the case. Multiple times in my time on council, and certainly right before it, as we experienced through the recession, those recommendations were not forthcoming. They did not recommend increases. And as Mr. Barr and other people here have mentioned, our role, our compensation for the role of the mayor of the community is actually underpaid. When you look at Livonia being the 9th largest city in the state, when you look at over $150 million rolling through this city from a budget standpoint as it relates to our general fund and all of our revolving funds and the special enterprise funds, that's a major operation. And we want to attract people that are of the highest level of talent. And I think that is the goal of the Local Officers Compensation Commission, is to make certain that we are establishing a salary, regardless of who's in now or who's going to be in next, but looking outside of politics and saying what is best for the city of Livonia to make certain that we're protecting everybody sitting here in the audience, everybody watching at home, and everybody who's not watching. So that we are attracting the talent in the mayor's office, the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, and this dais up here for city council to represent the city in the best manner possible. And I think
you
they
for
do
your
that
comments.
beyond reproach. Thank you.
thank you, Councilman. If there is no further comment from the audience, I will direct the clerk to call a vote. Madam Clerk.
We're
Can we
on,
clarify what exactly we're
I-
voting on?
As I understand, the motion on the floor is to approve the raises with the exception of those for city council. Is that correct?
Are we taking them separately?
Just so I'm clear, the way I understood the only motion on the floor was by Councilmember White, which was to reject the recommendations of the LOCC. And that's all I heard so far.
I don't believe that's
I know
correct.
there was some conversation about it, but I'm not sure that there was any
They didn't
amendment to
make a
that.
motion.
I don't believe that's what her motion was. Ms. White,
Chair,
would you please
The
restate your
motion
motion?
was to reject only the proposed increase in the city council salary.
That's the city
The
council
rest-
only, okay.
The rest would be just a receive and file, and the LOCC's recommendation on those positions would stand.
Okay, thank you. I misunderstood. I thought they was to reject the entire LOCC.
No.
And just for points of clarification, I know this council knows this, but it takes a 2/3 majority on this to reject.
Thank you, Mr. Bernier. Does everybody on council understand what we're voting on? It appears to be so. Madam Clerk, please take the roll, or please take the vote.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly.
Aye. So we have in approving for the raises provided by the Local Officers Compensation Committee to the mayor, the city clerk, and the treasurer, and the city council has denied the raise suggested for itself. And with that, I will return the gavel to Madam President,
Do you want to receive and file these, Jim?
and we will also receive and file, excuse me, I'll keep the gavel for another second here. We will receive and file communications from the city clerk's office received December 16, 2019 regarding the comparison of elected salaries from other communities, that they be received and placed on file for the information of the council. Also respectfully suggested that communication received from the city clerk dated November 21, 2019, with respect to the salaries of elected officials for calendar years 2020 and 2021 be received and placed on file for the information of the council. And I believe that is it.
That's it.
The gavel is back to Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President. Council, we're on item 17 is a request for additions to the local street system for Act 51 compulations.
Move approval.
Moved by Councilman Meekin, supported by
Support.
Councilman Kritzman. Was there discussion from the council? Hearing and seeing no one, is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak to item 17? Hearing and seeing no one from the audience, then may the clerk please take the vote.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. We're on 18, which is a request for waiver use extension for a gas station. Do I have a,
Madam President, I'll offer an approving motion.
thank you. Councilman Jolly has offered an approving. Do I have support?
Support.
Supported from Councilman Barr. Was there discussion from the council? Yes, go right ahead, Councilman
Just a
Kritzman.
clarification to the maker of the motion regarding the hours of operation. Is it your intention to make the motion as was proposed in the ordinance or remove the restrictions to the time of operation? This is an item that was added by Planning Commission. You know, what we're dealing with in front of us is an extension of a Planning Commission approval. They had a Planning Commission approval for a gas station. When it came back before Planning Commission to be extended for 1 year, Planning Commission added restrictions to the timeline. Personally, I'm not in favor of adding the restrictions. I don't think it puts them in the same situation from an operation standpoint. It hinders their ability to compete against other gas stations in the area. That's why I'm asking the question.
At this point, I offered my motion to follow in suit with what was provided most recently by the Planning Commission. My rationale for doing so is because I believe this gas station is in closer proximity on a much smaller site than most gas stations, much closer proximity to residences. And there's also, at that same intersection of Inkster and 7 Mile Road, 2 24-hour businesses, 1 gas station and a 7-Eleven already in operation. So I can understand why, and I can support why the Planning Commission offered what they did. Thank you.
You all set on that, Mr. Kritzman? Councilman Kritzman? Anyone else from the council before you go to the audience? Okay. Anyone here for that? I thought I saw the petitioner. There you are. Name and address, sir.
Ali Bazzi, 30825 26 Mile Road, New Haven.
Was there anything you wanted to add, sir?
Just to reiterate from our last discussion, and Councilman Jolly, it does put us at a competitive disadvantage in regards to the hours. I believe the council asked the planner to look in to see if there are any restrictions on any gas stations from our last meeting. I did not hear any comments from the planner in regards to that.
Mr. Termina, did you want to?
Yes, we sent an email. Unfortunately, it was late today, but I did. We verified that there's one location in the city with restricted hours, and that applies to the Consumer Energy compressed natural gas fueling facility on Farmington Road. And in that case, the hours are limited from 5 a.m. to midnight.
Thank you. Sir, what kind of hours did you want?
Well,
24?
we wanted to, typically, we're a 24 hours operation for competition, for security, but we wanted to open up the business doors, see how we did, and see the viability of the business, and then make determinations as we go. I feel that we're walking in, no pun intended, with one crutch, and then determining after the fact that we spent a considerable amount of money in the investment of the property, and being able not to compete with the competition in the area. I believe there's probably maybe over 20 gas stations in the city of Livonia that we pulled up. Most of them are open 24 hours. And I think some by choice have restricted hours and from their perspective.
Okay, and there, are you across from a 7-Eleven?
Yes, we are.
That's a 24-hour, isn't it?
That's correct.
But it's not a gas station, obviously.
No, it's not. It's a
But
convenience
it's a
store.
Slurpee place.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just joking with you. Okay, any other comments from my colleagues? Yes, go right ahead, Councilwoman McIntyre.
I feel like Mr. Jolly does. This gas station is in close proximity to a neighborhood. It's a smaller footprint than many of our gas stations. And, you know, we're granting you a one-year extension. The work wasn't able to get done in a year, so, or get started in a year. So I'm fine with continuing with the hour restriction. And I appreciate your point, but what I'd like to do is see you get the business redone and up and running, and then come back. The petitioner can come back, correct, Mark? And ask for an extension of hours. So, let's see how it goes. But that's my approach.
If I may,
Go ahead.
thank you.
Excuse me.
So in reference to Councilman McIntyre, we did not delay the project ourselves. It was no fault of our own. The same council voted on this a year ago with no restrictions from the Planning Commission and no restrictions from the City Council. We submitted plans. Due to another legal matter, we were delayed. Nothing of our doing, and since the legal matter had to be resolved first, after it was resolved, we were given the green light to move forward. As we started to move forward in our progress to begin construction, obviously the timeline was reached, and we're back here before you again.
Thank you. Councilman Kritzman and then Council Vice President Jolly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I have difficulty with this. I mean, when you look at the overall process that this gentleman went through, he purchased the property, he went through the proper process through the City of Livonia, we went through Planning Commission, they added restrictions. You go to City Council, we added restrictions. I myself gave him a hard time trying to upgrade the materials on the facade. I probably talked about his dumpster enclosure for all I know. I mean, we placed additional burdens on this gentleman, and at no point in time in our discussion a year ago did we bring up limitations on the time. That was our time to do it. What we've now done to this gentleman is put him in a situation where we allowed him to pursue a business, a mode of operation, a business model that had no limitations on time. He invests additional dollars in carrying the property, maintaining the property, pursuing the legal battles that he did. And now we're in round 3, round 4, adding things that we had every opportunity to do so a year ago. I have a problem with that. And with that, I will offer an approving resolution with no limitations on the time.
Point of order.
I will offer a substitute resolution, excuse me.
He wants a sub, yep.
Did it correctly
Yep,
then.
okay, great. Do we have support for that sub?
Yes.
Yes, there we go.
Support.
Support from Councilwoman McIntyre. Okay. All right, is there discussion on the substitute at this point?
Mr. Kritzman.
It's on the floor.
Mr. Kritzman was very compelling. So was the petitioner, so thank you.
Certainly. Anyone else? No, from the council? If not, anyone from the audience? Okay. Then I guess what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the clerk to take the vote on the substitution.
Did we go to the audience?
I did, I went to the audience, nobody moved. Yeah,
Okay. Councilmember White?
Just to clarify, this is, Madam Chair, with no restrictions on
substitute,
the hours.
yes, correct.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre? Councilmember Meakin?
Aye.
Vice President Jolly?
No.
Councilmember Kritzman?
Aye.
Councilmember Barr?
Aye.
Thanks.
President Toy?
Aye.
Thank you.
So the substitute does pass
Without the restrictions.
without the restrictions, so.
We still have to vote on the actual
We,
motion.
yeah, I'm gonna get there in about 1 minute, just a second. Okay, I'm a little slow here. All right, Madam Clerk, if there's no discussion on the first one by Councilman Jolly, Vice President Jolly, then
If I can say one more thing.
certainly go right ahead.
This is becoming the longest meeting ever, and I
Really
very
is.
much apologize to everybody. Listen, I want the gentleman to thrive in a business. I think he's going to improve the site. There's no need to come up here, sir. I'm just giving you some compliments. But listen, I think when we look at the process, if we're going to respect the process, listen, let's value the input of the planning commission, because there's smart individuals there as well. To be quite honest with you, I did not think about this first time around. We're going to have a very bright, very busy intersection at 7 and Inkster, and it's about to get brighter, and it's about to get busier. And that is a smaller lot that we gave approval to utilize than what we would typically expect. And like I said a couple minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, it's a lot closer in proximity to residences than other gas stations in the city. So that's why I believe the time restrictions are appropriate. But best of luck to you, sir. I hope you do well regardless, whatever the outcome is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Jolly. Madam Clerk, if I may just receive and file that December 13th, this year's letter, if you would, please, before we leave this. Okay, Council, we're now voting on Council Vice President Jolly. So-
No.
Kritzman's, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
We just did Councilmember Kritzman's substitute.
So we're
Correct.
approving the
So now we've got it.
resolution without the restrictions.
Right.
Okay. Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion has passed. Okay, I don't think we need to address anything else on that, and if not, we're going to go to item 19, which is a language change. And this, we held a public hearing on November 25th, where we heard testimony as well. And so, Mr. Bernier, are you up on this one on 19? To explain it?
Resolution.
Yeah, we do need a resolution, though, correct.
Madam President,
Yes, please, go right ahead.
sorry, we were still figuring something out here. I wasn't paying close attention. We're on 19, right?
Correct.
I'll offer, for starters, I'll offer Resolution B, which would approve the first reading and invoke the emergency clause.
Okay, Councilman Barr has offered item B. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman McIntyre.
Madam President?
Yes, please.
I just want to explain the reason for the way I worded that the way I did. There's another resolution I intend to offer, which those of you that were here previously know what that is, and that is to send to committee this subject so that we can, as a council, more deeply discuss and sort through the abundance of information that's been provided to us on this topic, which I have personally spent a great deal of time going through. It is an extremely complex topic. My head hurts every time I'm done with it. But I feel like I've gotten enough of a grasp on it that I think it is worthwhile for us to study some of these issues further as to what we can do as a city on this topic. That being said, the ordinance proposal before us now is not doing anything to inhibit any of that. This, right now, on this topic of 5G, as we stand right now, there's 5G being installed in this city without us doing anything. There will continue to be 5G installed in the city as a result of this ordinance change here. What this does allow is for us to have say on a few things as allowed by current state law that we don't currently have. So it doesn't do much different than what we're doing now, but it's doing the little bit under state law that we can do now. That being, let me rephrase that. The topic which we will address in another resolution, we'll have an opportunity to look at more of the things that we can do. My point is, what we're doing here, for those that are concerned about the proliferation of 5G, what we're doing with this ordinance does not do anything to make that situation worse. And we'll have an opportunity to talk about the other one. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Was there any other comments? Anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this?
Anything that it is new.
Okay, let me state to the audience, we appreciate your patience, but it does need to be new information to the council, and please state your name and address for the record. Okay? Hi.
Hi. My name is Dr. Angie Kolbeck. I'm actually from Canton, Michigan. However, I grew up in Livonia. I have parents and in-laws, nephews, brothers, and many friends here in Livonia. I'm here today to encourage you to join with other cities in the United States that are passing ordinances to restrict 5G due to the adverse health impacts from wireless radiation, including but not limited to cancer and DNA damage. The current ordinance being voted on today puts both the citizens in the city at risk because it does not address these concerns, nor does it address current federal statutory requirements related to the National Environmental Protection Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. I'm a retired board-certified pediatrician, and I also studied hospital and molecular epidemiology at the University of Michigan School of Public Health. Wireless radiation acts at a cellular level and therefore results in extensive adverse health impacts. I have been reviewing the studies showing the impacts of wireless radiation on our health, and there are now thousands of studies in the medical literature showing the following adverse health impacts due to wireless radiation: cancer, oxidative damage, DNA repair failure, cardiac arrhythmias and other effects on the heart muscle, as well as blood pressure and vascular effects, ADHD, behavioral disturbances and learning difficulties, autism, sleep disturbances and memory loss, changes involving the blood-brain barrier and effects on the neuron firing rate and the EEG, disrupted immune function and change in stress proteins, reproductive and fertility effects. To see a compendium of these over 3,600 studies in the medical literature, I encourage you to visit the following websites: bioinitiative.org, physiciansforsafetechnology.org, ehtrust.org, babysafeproject.org, and many others. Hundreds of doctors and scientists are sounding the alarm regarding the adverse health impacts of wireless radiation.
Thank you. I'm sure we've reached your 2-minute limit on an item.
I only have 30 seconds.
We
Can I have
can't
your
take
time?
more than 2 minutes here.
I'll take his time.
Okay.
Can
No,
I
that's
just
not
take?
allowed.
No.
Every person gets 2 minutes.
Seriously. Seriously.
This is really very critical things for the health of the
That is
citizens.
our
of-
procedures,
Doctor,
and
could-
everyone's entitled to 2 minutes on an item.
Doctor, could you, do you have that in written form?
I do, but my dad actually, who lives in Livonia, said I could take his time. So I actually literally
They-
only have,
It's not allowed under the rules is our
Oh,
problem
okay,
here.
all right.
If I may ask you, do you have a copy of that?
I don't, but I can email it to you. But all I can tell you is if we pursue this, there will be wireless radiation transmitters every
Okay.
3 to
Point of
10
order,
homes, and it's
Madam
like
President.
living at a, it's
Right.
like living right next
Okay,
to the
we're gonna get a copy from you. If you'll see the clerk, she'll make a copy of that then, okay? We appreciate it. Okay, and that way we'll have a copy to read it. Okay, to my right, you have 2 minutes, and go right ahead.
So I have a copy for each representative. or-
That'd be great. That goes to the clerk so she
Now?
can stamp it in. If you wanna wait till after you present, that would be great.
Okay, to the city councilors of Livonia, I attest and affirm that the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. There's thousands of scientific literature out there for decades informing us that our cells are thrown into chaos when exposed to man-made RF radiation via calcium channels. I won't go into the effects because Dr. Kolbeck did a great job of that, but these studies do exist. You can't see what you're looking for, but when we're all here because we actually did the research, and we found that exposure to RF radiation is hazardous, particularly when modulated and when its wavelengths are in the very dimensions of our brain and other key organs, producing maximum absorption and consequences to follow. In the face of all this evidence, why do a small proportion of studies show no effects? Well, of course, studies can and often are designed to fail. But in a good study, it's because the healthier the cell, the higher the voltage it can maintain, the more intact its cell wall, and the less injured from other environmental hazards. This is why a cell or a whole body may initially absorb RF radiation without acute adverse effects. Damage is still being done, but it takes longer to dismantle a house with a good structure than one that has suffered with years of poor maintenance or prior assaults. What we don't see is still hurting us. The evidence is clear. It's out there for the looking. Public officials need to use whatever is possible to put the brakes on the new wireless telecommunication facilities in Livonia. And let's not pay faster download speeds with our health. I do not consent to any new radiation from any of the wireless telecommunication facilities that are proposed to being up, and I do not consent to being part of a large-scale biological experiment on public health and safety. Tonight, I urge you, do not vote on the proposed ordinance amendments. Due diligence is warranted on your part to be informed of the facts and laws related to this matter prior to making such an important decision as this, which will impact the lives of every single resident in Livonia. I urge you, our city council members, to put forth and vote on putting in place a moratorium on making any decision on the proposed ordinance amendments today. And you have full duty to do that. It's actually by law. You can do this. There is a stay.
Miss, your 2
Until-
minutes is up. And if you want to leave a copy with the clerk, she'll be happy to give it to us, okay? Thank you.
My final statement is I
Thank you.
have expressed no concern.
Thank you. Go right
Yes,
ahead, sir.
Yes, my name is Ed Martin. I'm 18525 Southampton, Livonia. I've been here over 40 years. Have AFib, my wife's got AFib. Spent about a year going ahead and making sure we got rid of all the smart meters and the Wi-Fi and all the other stuff. And I really don't need to have 5G, right out in front of my house or a couple houses down. So I really urge the people here at the city council to go ahead and think about what you're doing. Make sure you get all the facts. Don't just make a quick decision here, because what could possibly happen is that here a few years down the line, when everybody says, oh, that was really a bad mistake. And now we're going to get sued because the cell phone companies and stuff like that, they're not going to get nothing done to them. But Livonia will if the people start getting sick. So keep that in mind when you're making your decision. Make sure you go ahead and study what's going on.
Thank you, sir. We've gotten a lot of information, and we appreciate yours. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make an Americans with Disability Act.
We need your name and address, please, for the record.
Gina Wheaton, 10945 Stark Road. I'd like to make an Americans with Disability Act ADA request. I hereby present verbally and in writing an official request under the U.S. Disabilities Act, ADA, that you act by and by all emergency means to cease the placement, construction, modification, and operations of all additional, as of August 9th, 2019, wireless telecommunication facilities, or WTFs. I'm a Livonia citizen. I'm a registered nurse. My husband is a Livonia business owner. We have 4 small children, one of whom has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. A person with ADHD has differences in brain development and brain activity that affects attention, the ability to sit still, and self-control. There is no doubt that my son's ADHD symptoms would be substantially exacerbated by the exposure to WTF microwave radiation, particularly in this close of a proximity. Therefore, I thereby request that under the ADA that he remain free from all and any infrastructural radiation without limitation from any and all WTFs in my neighborhood and in Livonia. I have a tower that stands 50 feet from my property. As a medical professional, I know and already observe the horrific health effects of the radio frequency microwave radiation therefrom, not only in my child with ADHD, but in my other children and my husband and myself. I do not consent to 5G and other WTF radiation exposure. According to the FCC, following the DC Circuit Court of Appeals ruling on August 9th and October 1st, 2019, every application must undergo NEPA review. NEPA is a National Environmental Policy Act. For this reason, every application in your files from August 9th to the present is incomplete. To some permits, operations, you're operating outside the law. Per the Supreme Court decision in
Thank you.
FCC.
Yes, next. Yes, to my left.
Suzanne Yarbrough, 33428 Richland. 2 minutes is not enough, and you should have a digital clock that I can see what time I have. I got 8:45, what do you got?
I started it 13 seconds ago, so.
Oh, 13 seconds, I only spoke for 5. Okay, so that's a ripoff. Okay, to the City of Livonia officials, my name is Suzanne Yarbrough, and I attest and affirm that the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. The polarized pulse-modulated microwave radiation from wireless telecommunication facilities, WTF, that Livonia wishes to allow without regulation would produce major deleterious effects on the neurological systems of the people of Livonia. It is well established in relevant peer-reviewed scientific studies that highly xenobiotic, that's foreign to life, types of radiation deployed by WTF produces many adverse impacts on neurological systems of humans and animals. The nervous system is the whole body level, relies on precise electron flow to synapses and potential energy to function. Okay, the addition of more cell towers, which cell towers are known to, there's over 2,000 studies that I wonder if any of you have looked up, and you're supposed to protect the public health. I've asked you repeatedly, but you say, well, it's not us, it's somewhere else. It's just, you know what? Over 90 cities and counties have filed lawsuit on the FCC regarding 5G. So yes, you could do something.
Thank you
And-
very much.
No, I want to see what time it is.
Okay, go right ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'm giving 10 letters.
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to speak,
I
please stick up.
submit into
Ma'am,
public record.
Ms. Yarborough, I'm sorry, but you're out of order, and we do need to go to the next speaker. Please go right ahead.
And I'm
Mrs.
submitting
Yarborough.
this evidence to the Supreme
Officer,
Court.
could you escort her to where she should be, please?
I accept your oath
Thank
of
you.
office.
Thank you, Ms. Yarborough. Thank
You're
you.
all fired. Here's my 10 copies.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Go right ahead,
supposed
miss.
to work for the public.
We're trying. Go right ahead.
My name is Amy Chavalia. All of you have a copy of my ADA request form. I have a 9-year-old daughter with some disabilities that will be exasperated by this 5G rollout. I'm not going to read my letter because you all have a copy of it. I hope you'll take the time to read it. I fiercely love my children, and I do everything in my power to protect my family, and I just cannot consent to having this 5G forced into my home and affecting my daughter. Her health will deteriorate. She can't use cell phones, she can't use tablets of any kind, or she develops tics within minutes. And I can't, I really hope that you look at my letter and understand where I'm coming from here. I really want to speak on the behalf of everyone with a disability, children, adults, everyone. They're going to be the most vulnerable. They're going to be the ones that are going to be more severely affected. We're all going to be affected, but they're going to be the most affected. So please read my letter, and please take this seriously. This is a very serious matter. Thank you.
Yes. go right ahead.
Amy, I just wanted to thank you for coming and for your letter. And the reason we're putting this into a hearing, that Scott has suggested that we put it into a committee, is so we can listen to and delve into these concerns at a much deeper level. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Yes, please, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Nancy Abney. I've been a Livonia business owner for 33 years. My family and I have been totally devastated by the effects of EMFs and RF radiation, to which you have another separate letter that tells the story. But in this case, I'd like to just say I test and affirm that the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. The current wireless telecommunications facilities, otherwise known as WTFs, misleadingly called small cells, are undermining the cardiac function of people in Livonia, to which I have suffered as well. And if not removed, it will continue to do so. Research shows increases in heart rate, arrhythmias, dizziness, blood pressure, and other disturbances in cardiovascular functioning follow exposure to wireless radiation. Several studies reported changes in EEG tests after prolonged repeat exposure to radio frequency radiation, such as WTFs deploy. Immediate and short-term effects are also common. The citizens of Livonia are experiencing and will continue to experience increased autonomic nervous system sympathetic activity and decreased parasympathetic activity in response to WTF's highly unnatural pulse-modulated microwave radiation. Diminished health and productivity of Livonia residents will result, leading in increased health care expenditure and early death. I submit herewith onto the public record substantial evidence in the form of relevant peer-reviewed scientific studies which are admissible under the Supreme Court Daubert rule. I have expressed no concern other or any other non-substantive matter, but solely matters of fact of law. I accept your oath of office, and I encourage you, please, to read and research this topic thoroughly.
Thank you very much.
And here's copies of.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Lynn. I tend to submit a written copy of this at a later date. I had issues. I too have children with disabilities, and I'm concerned about the 5G. I attest and affirm that the following statement is true and accurate within my personal knowledge. I understand that you believe that your hands are tied in the situation regarding the deployment of wireless technology facilities, or WTFs, on public right-of-ways in the city of Livonia. Out of much appreciation for the work you do for all of us, please allow me to untie your hands. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 recognizes the actual environmental effects of radio frequency radiation, or PFRs, from wireless telecommunication facilities, indicating by extension of recognition of actual health effects. I apologize, I'm very nervous. The Act left regulation of the health effects entirely within the state and local officials' authority, obligating said officials to protect its residents from health effects with regard to the placement, construction, modification, and operations of WTFs. In plain reading, no state or local government or instrumentality thereof may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with Commissioner's regulations concerning such emissions. FCC is not the U.S. Congress and does not make laws. Congress, TCA does, not preempt local authority over WTF operations, including emissions. Rather, when given the choice to preempt operations, Congress positively left all authority within the state and local offices' hands. By making false representations, Livonia officials
Vanessa,
are ultra varies.
Vanessa, thank you very much.
Apologize for that.
No,
But
you did a great job. Thank you.
If I could just say, we do plead, you see, we're all very passionate about
Right,
this. If
right,
you could
we
just
know
read
that.
the information.
We
Well,
understand.
We didn't sense that from the gavel.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like you want to hear us.
Well, sometimes you gotta hit the gavel a little harder than others. Yes, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jeremy Shaft. I just came to this community in Livonia.
address, sir?
28404,
Your address? Yes.
5 Mile. I just bought a practice here in Livonia last year, and so I'm actually just wanted to commend you guys on what a great city it is. I've grown up in Plymouth, Canton area, and I'm actually quite pleased with my time here in Livonia. So I wanted to tell you guys are doing a great job. I'm also very passionate about people and about the health of people. And as a doctor, that's what I do, is look at people's health. And it's very concerning when technologies like this are coming out, especially untested like they are. If you look at human history, we have not lived with this type of technology or with really any radioactive radio wave technologies for very long periods in our span of humanity. Our DNA has developed over the course of millions of years with the environmental stresses that were put upon us, and these things are brand new. Our bodies are not adapted to deal with these things, and we don't know what they're doing. And what we're finding out is 20, 30, 40 years later, these technologies are causing serious problems. We're seeing this with chemicals in our environment. We're seeing it with electromagnetic waves. I mean, how many of you own a house right next to power lines? Nobody. Those are EMFs. Look at the prices of houses next to power lines. They're $30,000, $40,000 less than one just down the street. Why is that? Nobody wants to live next to a power line. You know what that is? That's an EMF. That's a non-ionizing radiation. It's exactly the same thing as these types of things, and these are going to be every 5 to 10 houses. It has to be within 300 yards of each other to work. and you're gonna be blasted with radiation all day long. I beg you guys, I know you guys, your hands are tied on this, and this isn't even what this is about. I just beg you guys to please look at this very, very seriously. The health of our community and our people are at stake here. Chronic disease is running rampant in our society. 1 in 2 kids will have cancer.
Thank you, sir, very much. Thank you, doctor. And you'll have other opportunities, as has been stated, so we welcome you as well at those meetings. Yes, go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Jessica Diaz. I attest and affirm that the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. Wireless telecommunications facilities irradiate, block the landscape and skyscape, and disallow healthy private living. The reinsurance and insurance industries have refused to insure the wireless communications industry for 4G and 5G wireless. The effective radiating power of any WTFs must be limited by a means of protective fuses to 0.04 watts, such limit as allows carriers to provide more than adequate coverage but not irradiate at maximum capacity. The protective fuses are of nominal cost and will earn the city considerable income from violations of this ERP limit. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 does not preempt local authorities from regulating the operations of WTFs. Indeed, it requires them to do so. Any refusal to regulate, as city officials are obligated to do, and any misrepresentation, such as a false denial of the existence of authority, renders an official ultra vires, which means outside of the law. The best solution for any city is fiber to the premises. Fiber optic cable is the most energy efficient, expedient, reliable, secure, safe, and democratic way to offer broadband service. With fiber, individual households can choose whether they want to run wireless in their homes via Wi-Fi or not. Livonia would use the fiber optic cable that we've already paid for through our phone bills as the starting point, which the wireless industry uses free of charge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Kristen Lee, 31193 Hillbrook Street. Hundreds, as we've heard from our own doctor here, hundreds of doctors and scientists are sounding the alarm regarding the adverse health effects of wireless radiation, including the American Academy of Pediatrics. In addition, a large $25 million study conducted by the FDA on behalf of the National Toxicology Program also reveals that wireless radiation causes cancer and DNA damage. To look at how we can be high-tech but deploy it safely, take a look at c4st.org. Former president of Microsoft Canada, Frank Clegg, discusses how we should avoid 5G and pursue deployment of technology in a safe manner. So we implore the council to do whatever is in your power to stop things and look at it, how we can do this safely. So we should be joining other cities to protect our citizens from the massive amount of wireless radiation that 5G would be exposing our citizens to. 5G is not like going from 3G to 4G. 5G, because it operates at a much higher frequency, requires hundreds of thousands of new wireless radiation transmitters to be placed. How many of you would like to live close to a cell tower if you had a choice? If 5G is deployed, you will have no choice. And as we know, where there is risk, there must be choice. When 5G is fully deployed, estimates are that wireless radiation transmitters will be placed every 2 to 10 houses. They are deploying 5G with no safety testing, no regulation, no safety guidelines. There have been no tests to show it's safe, yet people are being forced to have these wireless radiation transmitters in front of their homes. This is in spite of the fact, as far back as the 70s, the US Navy examined this technology and found there to be serious health hazards. Having this transmitter in front of your home will massively increase your radiation exposure, and you'll be exposed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. My children, the elderly, are particularly vulnerable to the negative health impacts. This telecom industry has too much influence over our federal and state legislators. So thankfully, you can make an impact at the local level, and we plead with you to do everything in your power. On behalf of my friend and physician, Dr. Angie Kolbeck, myself as a resident, and many others, I'm asking you to join other cities in the U.S. in restricting 5G. Let's especially keep it away from our neighborhoods and away from our schools so that we can keep our friends and neighbors healthy. Again, where there's risk, there must be choice.
Thank you.
My name is Mandy Ordaz. Our address is 30797 Bobridge Street. And my husband and I had a really long journey coming to Livonia. We worked really hard to be here. We love it. Thank you so much for being who you are and doing what you do. We really love Livonia. Our 4 boys are thriving in all of the school programs and the family family-oriented community that you have created here. Our youngest son has special needs. He has a rare catastrophic form of epilepsy caused by a genetic mutation. There's no cure, and he's very sensitive to everything. Eating a potato chip, the full moon, a storm can cause a seizure, and any seizure can become life-threatening for him. So, as we have already heard, this could be life-threatening for him. Thank you so much, Councilman Barr, for explaining that there will be a committee. I'm curious, I'm going to submit my letter so you don't have to listen to it now. But who will be on the committee? And then according to the petition or the agenda here, so basically you're voting to just remove the governing of remove one section and create another one. And so you've mentioned there'll be a committee. So A, who will be on the committee? And then B, how will you decide what's in the new section? Is that where we're going to find some regulation, or?
Yeah, that'll be discussed. Go right ahead, Councilman Barr, if you'd like to explain.
I was going to handle this after everybody. Should I do it now? Or
Yeah,
should I wait
please.
to- Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
she
just,
asked. Yeah.
Actually, I will get to your question. Looks like we have two
Sounds
more
good.
people. I'd like to wrap this up with a few bullet points when we're done, but I'll address your
Perfect.
question then.
Thank you so much. So I should submit my letter to
The clerk,
now, or?
just hand it to this gentleman right here.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
he'll give it to her. Thank you very much. Okay, go right ahead, miss.
Hi, I'm Lori Eba. My address is 2819 Park Drive in Milford. I drove a ways to get here, but I grew up not too far. I have addressed the Michigan House of Representatives Energy Committee, the Senate Energy Committee, the Michigan Public Service Commission on this issue. I myself am electrohypersensitive and also sensitive to the radio frequency radiation. I've also given copies of my statement. I'm going to abbreviate it here. You have copies. I might not have gotten all the way around, though, because I left copies with the three of you. So if you don't mind, this is the one. Lori Eba is my name. I attest and affirm the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. The pulse-modulated microwave radiation from wireless telecommunication facilities is hazardous, causing DNA damage to the mitochondria, the energy generators inside our cells. It also damages the membrane of red blood cells. When cells are removed from microwave radiation exposure after a limited amount of time, they can still recover. However, the DNA damage does not recover. When cells are constantly exposed to microwave radiation, they are not able to recover. The harmful effects of radio frequency or microwave radiation have been documented by over 10,000 studies over the last century. BioInitiative 2012, now updated, is a review put together by 29 scientists from multiple countries about these harmful effects of the radiation on human health. There is currently an international appeal signed by 248 EMF scientists from 42 countries urging the UN and the World Health Organization to exert strong leadership on the development of more protective measures. I have expressed no concern or any other non-substantive matter, but solely on matters of fact and law, and I accept your oath of office and now bind you to it to safeguard the citizens of Livonia and to make an example to other communities in Michigan. And I thank you that you're going to look into this further.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to address the council at this point, or? Yes.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Sayre, and I'd like to read off of this.
Yeah, just your address, Jeremy.
10581 Stark. Notice of a cease and desist from processing and approving any applications pertaining to all 4G and 5G small cell wireless telecommunication facilities, and from any placement, construction, modification, and operations thereof as non-compliant with the August 9th, 2019 ruling in case 18-1129 in the Federal Appeals Court of DC.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Okay, yes, go right ahead.
Wrap it
Yes,
up, or-
please, wrap it up. Yep.
Hi,
Oh, hi. Did you want to? Yep, sure.
Vicki Johnson, 32209 Jamison Court, Livonia. 46 years, same
All
house.
right.
And I love it here, but I have worked in cardiology for a number of years, specifically with electrophysiologists. And we have several doctors who did a study on implantable devices, pacemakers, defibrillators, and our patients can't even go through metal detectors. And you're gonna be putting this RF all over the place, these patients, it's gonna zap their batteries, and some of them are pacemaker dependent, they're gonna die. And it could cause more frequent defibrillations that are unnecessary and cause death. So you have to look into the radio frequency. It's not a good thing to be around.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Go right ahead.
All right, I'm going to run through a few bullets here based on all the things we've heard. Number one, I have done extensive research on this, and while I can't speak for everybody else on the council, I know their track records, and I strongly suspect they have as well. We've read what you've sent us. Not going to say that we're all as expert as you are, but there has been a very good faith effort to try to process what's been sent to us. Number two, I do think there are legitimate concerns with this. Number three, we don't need to applaud. Number three, contrary to something that was said earlier, nothing we can do tonight is capable of stopping this, okay? Of stopping it. That being said, no, our hands are not tied. I agree with you. There are things that we can do, and much of that has been provided by you, some has been through my own research. That's where I said this is really complex. When you get into the legalities of what we're talking about here, about state statute and federal statute and local ordinances and court decisions that have come just in the last 1 to 3 months and all these and how they fit together, there's a lot to sort through here, okay? That's exactly why, separate from this item, I want to send it to we'll be sending it to a committee, and I'll just say this now, just so we can save the conversation later to answer the question about who's on that committee. We're getting ready to do a changeover here with January 1st. My understanding is the Economic Development, Strategic Planning, and Technology Committee, where I had proposed this be sent, is going to be chaired by Mr. Jolly. It's going to be vice chaired by myself, and the third member on that committee will be Brandon McCullough. Everybody else on council will have an opportunity to attend. Many times they do, but that's who will be on that committee. It would be my hope that we would take that up relatively quickly in the new year. This council has a record of not letting stuff language in committee. I know oftentimes in other cities you see that. It doesn't happen here. And I'll just publicly request the chair right now that we find an opportunity early in the year to take this up. But I think that answers everything that was addressed, but I'll just finish with this again. The ordinance change that's being put forth here does not do anything to make it worse. And it does nothing.
Okay,
and it
please,
does nothing
please.
to inhibit. It does nothing to inhibit any of the other things we may be able to do in order to address some of the concerns that have been addressed. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman White.
First of all, since 1995, Livonia's been a leader in pushing the envelope against the telecommunication industry because they continually try to overstep the bounds and boundaries of local government and home rule authority. I've spent much of my 29-year legal career with the city doing just this. The comment was made that fiber to the premises is what we should be aiming for. I completely agree with that. The problem is we can, as officials, force the industry to spend the dollars necessary to invest in fiber to the premises. The lobbying dollars expended by AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, Sprint, and others are huge. They may be one of the most well-funded lobbyists in the country. And as people rely more and more on their phones as a source of entertainment and information, the industry has had success in convincing legislators at the state and federal level that allowing this kind of technology to expand is an overriding public goal. I'm sympathetic to the health concerns, and I appreciate that aspects of this will be put in committee so that we can study this further.
Right.
But federal and state officials have limited our authority, and this is our attempt. This ordinance amendment is our attempt to exert what remaining authority we have to put some restrictions on this so that that we can exert whatever authority that remains at the local government level, we can do, and we can try to do that. So I do support enacting this ordinance amendment for that very reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. I'm going to ask the clerk then, if there's no other comments, that we're going to call for the vote, and then we'll look at the emergency clause after that for the first read.
First read, this is Councilmember Barr and Councilmember McIntyre. B, approving, okay, with the first read, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. Now, we do need a motion for the emergency clause.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman McIntyre, supported by Councilman Meekin. Was there discussion from the council? Hearing and seeing none. Madam Clerk, will you take the vote on that?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye. The emergency clause is, do I have, go right ahead, Councilman Barr.
Madam President, I'll offer Resolution A, which would refer this to the Economic Development Strategic Planning and Technology Committee for further discussion.
Thank you.
Point of order,
Yes.
the resolution's out of order.
Yes. We've got,
I'm sorry.
The
Yes,
second
I
reading.
understand. I will, oh, you're saying we have to do second reading first?
correct.
I don't understand, now I do. Thank you.
You have heard second reading then on,
Sure, I'll offer
as
second
well?
reading.
Okay. Ready? Madam Clerk, will you take the vote on the second reading then? On
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye. Councilman Barr, did you want to move
Yes.
Resolution
Now I
A?
would like to offer Resolution A, which would refer this to committee for further discussion.
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman White. Discussion by Councilwoman McIntyre.
I'd like to recognize and laud my colleague Kathy White for the outstanding summary she just gave of the situation. And I really hope that everyone that took the time to come here tonight and talk to City Council about this has taken the same amount of time and the same passion to talk to the state and federal legislators who are the ones that have moved this beyond our control. So, thank you.
Thank you, well put. Madam Clerk, will you please receive and file the November 25th of this year's letter as well? Okay, with that, then we will look to Councilman Barr's motion here, and if you would call the vote.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. We're under new business, item 20. This is dollars for a sidewalk program from engineering. Council direction?
Support.
Moved by Meekin, supported by Barr. Was there further discussion from the council? Anyone from the audience wishing to speak to item 20? Hearing and seeing no one, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, motion passes. Council, we are on 21. This is request to authorize additional expenditure from the engineering for the 2019 concrete road program on 21.
Move approval.
Moved by Councilman Jolly,
Support.
supported by Councilwoman McIntyre. Was there further discussion? Anyone from the audience wishing to speak to this item? No one? Madam Clerk, will you take the vote?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
for the last time, Councilmember Meekin,
Aye.
Vice President Jolly,
Aye.
for the last time, Councilmember Kritzman,
Aye.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
President Toy.
Aye, for the last time.
It's been an honor to be with you.
Yes, well, thank you. Before we go into something else, yes, go ahead, Councilwoman McIntyre. No, I just want to present Councilwoman McIntyre, if she would, just stand for a moment, because you're going to need to stand when you see this. You know, part of having fun on the council is giving you your new wand to help out this council. It goes 3 different ways, I believe.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. May you rule with grace and a strong gavel.
Madam Chair.
Most days I'm the good witch. And that, I would like to take this opportunity, if we could all just recognize our fine Mayor Wright in the back and thank him for all of his participation and support at our council meetings and everything he's done for the council, so. Thank you. President Toy, I will use this responsibly, I
Thank
promise.
you. I would hope so. Thank you.
Look out, Brian.
Yes.
Madam President?
Yes, please.
If I may expand upon Councilwoman McIntyre's words to Dennis Wright, our mayor, who's shaking hands like he always is. Once a politician, always a politician. No, all the victories that we've had over the course of the last 4 years are really Mayor Wright's victories. We appreciate everything that he's done for the city. We've had some spirited debates over the course of the last 4 years. We've had some spirited debates here tonight. But he's really the truest sense of a gentleman you can have in the city of Livonia. He's beloved by the department heads and everybody here on council. And more importantly, the residents of the city of Livonia. If you ask them who the nicest person in Livonia was, there's a really good chance out of 100,000 people, most of them are going to say Dennis Wright. We appreciate everything. We honestly love you for what you are and what you've done. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun working with you guys. We've made a lot of good things happen. We did it as a team. We all were on that team. Don't ever forget it. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wright. Councilwoman White.
Well, I just wanted to comment that I've offered to write the cover letter for Mayor Wright for his next job interview, and I hope he takes me up on that, because it would be very complimentary.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Mayor Wright, for your steadfast, your honesty, and we appreciate everything you've done for our city. And we look forward to working with you through the years here. And you are older than I am, so I will always look up to you, sir.
Madam
Okay,
President,
yes, go
10
right ahead.
seconds, I promise. I was late earlier because of my daughter's band concert, but just briefly, Brian and Brandon, I'm really going to miss both of you. And so thanks for all you've done, and Merry Christmas, Livonia.
Yeah, any special memories of Christmas that anybody wants to share at the moment? No, not really?
Move to adjourn?
Oh, wait a minute, we gotta go back to audience communication. Just 1 second, I don't want to get accused of not going back to the audience. Go right ahead.
Madam President.
Familiar face
John
and-
Grisbick,
yes.
11301 Hubble, and members of council. I'm sorry to take your time. I know it was a late meeting. I did try to get here in the beginning of the meeting because I had a couple things I wanted to say. I'm just representing myself and no one else. But I had a prior commitment that I had to come to, otherwise I would have been at the first half of your meeting. President Toy, thank you for your kindness and decency as the council president, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the next 2 years. And I know Councilwoman, or Council President-elect McIntyre will do a fine job, and I look forward to seeing you at meetings and those kinds of things. Councilman Meekin, I've known you for a good long time. When I met Mayor Engebretson back then, with Joe Taylor, Councilman Joe Taylor, Council President Joe Taylor, and a variety of people, I met you back in high school. And you were always kind to me. I always knew where you stood as a resident, and I think your experience and things were well placed on the council as a resident. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Councilman Kritzman, I've always appreciated your honesty. Whenever I've had a request, I could always expect an email and an honest answer. Sometimes I didn't always agree or you know, everything on that. But one time I remember especially was when I was looking to be involved in a couple people approached me about the Greenleaf Commission. Something that you championed, along with a lot of other things. I think there's a tremendous lot of things that you did with your experience, and I appreciate that. But the Greenleaf Commission became a committee at that time, and then you took it to the next step through the mayor and others in the administration. I appreciate that, and I'm not speaking for anybody other than one member of that commission. And I know Mayor-elect Brosnan as well was a supporter along with all of you to make that a commission. I look forward to good things, but I appreciate you for planting the seed. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I know it got late. Thanks, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas,
John.
Happy New Year, John.
Thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, thanks, John. Good job. Anyone else wishing to address a council? Well, that's good because Kathleen would have turned on her magic wand here if you had come up. Okay, well, listen, everyone have a great Christmas, and here's to a new 2020, and to Brian and Brandon, you will be sorely missed. God bless you. Take care. We are adjourned.